My name is Ada Hurst, and I'm a teaching track faculty in the Department of Management Sciences. And that's in the Faculty of Engineering at the University of Waterloo. And so what I do is I primarily teach in the Management Engineering program. It's an undergraduate program that we have in our department. And both my teaching and my research focus are in the area of engineering design. Management engineering is a very unique program. It's the only one in Canada, actually. And some people think that it's very similar to industrial engineering. We like to think of it as a modernized version of industrial engineering. But really the basic premise is that today's world is very data-driven. Organizations use a lot of data. The world is already also very digital. And so what management engineering does is use a series or a number of methods and approaches from the management sciences. So these are mathematics, like there's something called operations research, information systems, so a lot of software, a lot of behavioral science, organizational science. And what you do is you build tools and methods in order to help organizations improve and optimize their products, their processes, and their systems. My role is that I teach what's called capstone design. So engineering students always work on a fourth year on a big, it's called capstone design project. And so I help students learn and practice design methods, and also work, and I tutor them in working on these design projects from beginning to end. And so that's where my interest in engineering design, both as something that I teach, but also as I research, how do people design? That's sort of the focus of my research. And how do people learn how to design? That's where it comes in. And so what design really means in management engineering is it's designing management systems, which are typically decisions, usually software-based, but they help organizations make better decisions. Those decisions can really vary. They can range from, if you're an airline, how do you schedule your flights, to how do you build cohesive team, to pricing decisions, scheduling, assignment, all kinds of different decisions organizations make, operational decisions. All of them can be solved using the tools and methods for management engineering. I definitely was interested in STEM. I had two things I wanted to be. It was either astronaut, archaeologist, or scientist. I ended up being, I think, a scientist. And people, when they think about science, they think natural science. They think chemistry, biology. But I do what's called engineering design, and that is really at the intersection of engineering, but also psychology, which is also science, and also social sciences. So some like to think that it's both art and science. Some like to think that it's a third discipline altogether, neither art nor science, but everyone will agree that design, it's not art or science alone, right? It's some combination or some unique blend of the two. My undergraduate degree was in electrical engineering. In high school, I liked all the subjects. I mean, I definitely liked STEM, in particular math. I loved math, but I really liked all the subjects. I loved writing. I loved writing even fiction. I liked history. I kind of liked geography too. So I liked all the subjects, but I knew that I loved math. And then I went into electrical engineering because you kind of like to follow in the footsteps of people you admire, maybe your parents. And so my father was an electrical engineer, so I followed in his footsteps. It turned out it wasn't really the path for me. But one thing that opened my eyes really to beyond sort of this very analytical world is that I pursued a minor in religious studies. And so for at least a portion of my courses, and this was in addition to my electrical engineering degree, I pretended to be an art student. In electrical engineering, you do a lot of math assignments and a lot of hardware labs and programming, and it's a very there's correct answers, and that's the kind of nature of the work that you do. But in arts, and especially in religious studies, there's a lot of readings and forming arguments and justifying those arguments, and a lot of sort of gray areas. And so I really enjoyed this duality of both the analytical and this is what the answer is, but also this uncertainty. And so I think it wasn't a straightforward pathway. After that, I did a master's and a PhD in management sciences, which again is a very unique interdisciplinary department where you're blending a lot of these very, very seemingly different things. We have a heavy math component, we have a software component, we have a psychology component, but all of these prepared me for this new activity of teaching and researching design where really these things come together. As far as management engineering is concerned, what I find really fascinating about it is that it really applies to so many industries and fields. And so in my role, we have been tracking our graduates for over 10 years now in their careers through their LinkedIn profiles. We know many of them, they keep in touch. And so it's been fascinating to see sort of the range of both the industries, but also the kind of work they do and how successful they are. And to give you some ideas, many of them end up working in product management, which is currently a very highly sought after career. It's almost like the interface of engineering. So, and if you're in a software product management, it's usually software engineering, the interface of software engineering, and then business, and then also user experience. So you're trying to manage the design and development of products that fit the needs of users. They make sense from a business perspective for the company, and are feasible and can actually be developed from an engineering perspective. So that is a very interesting area, very useful area. That's, product managers are what makes good product, who make good products. If I could go do it again, that would be one, I think, career that would be really interesting for me. Another big area that management engineering students work in is increasingly in data. So there's a lot of data being generated in our everyday life. Organizations can use their data internally as well as externally. And so beyond just simple business analytics methods, more advanced data analytics and data science methods are being created and developed to really draw insight from data that a person cannot necessarily see. So using very advanced data science, AI, machine learning tools, our students now, through their training in management engineering, they can apply this in the workplace as well, and be part of a growing field of a highly needed group of people who have the skills to do these analyses. Another big area is consulting. There's all kinds of different consulting, everything from technology consulting to strategy consulting. But the idea is the same. You are going in with this mind that is open to working with an organization to understand what their issues are, and then working with them to design a solution to their problems and designing a sustainable solution that can serve the organization in the long term. And finally, a lot of our students also work in the software development area. At the University of Waterloo, there's many different engineering programs, but interestingly, management engineering actually has one of the highest number of software engineering courses in its curriculum. So our students, many of them are actually interested and talented in software, and they further increase their exposure to software, both through their courses, but also through their co-op experiences. As someone that teaches at a university, I'm sure this is also true for people who teach at other levels, including high school. One thing that I've learned about teaching is that, well, things are always changing. It's easy to kind of imagine, well, this is how I was taught this in high school, or this is how I was taught this in university, and kind of to say, well, this is how you teach this kind of thing. This is the best professor that I had, this is how they taught this. And, that can work, but sometimes it doesn't work. And the reasons for that is that the students are changing, the content of the courses are changing, technologies are changes. Students have they're coming in with new experiences, different expectations. And so I think that the main skill that I find is useful is being flexible and willing to give up on what you think was a good way, or a good idea, or a good way to teach a subject, and always be willing to listen to the students, listen to their feedback, and try new things and change things up. What I think is constant, though, or should remain constant, is attention to students' needs and sort of the overarching goal, which should be student learning. And I think what's important is actually maintaining an empathy for where students are coming from and what helps them learn. And then everything else can change around it. But if you're focusing on what they need to learn and make that the goal, then you don't have to worry so much about finding the best way to teach something and always maintaining it that way. The main teaching that I do is I teach something called Management Engineering Capstone Design Project courses. So this is a sequence of 2 courses that students take in their final year. And it's interesting because it's very different from regular courses. Most courses at university are very lecture-based, but in engineering design, there's much less structured learning in a sort of lecture environment. The main way that you learn design is by something we call the design studio. It's a social space. It's an open, informal space where students basically learn design by doing and by one-on-one tutoring with a design expert or an instructor. And so, although I do end up being in front of a classroom, trying to explain some design methods, trying to explain how students should go about designing, a lot of actually teaching happens one-on-one with student groups, whom I tutor and I follow and I give advice to from the very beginning when they're trying to figure out a challenge, a problem opportunity on which to base their design project, all the way to the very end when I get to celebrate with them their final designs in a final sort of public showcase that we have for the design projects. Typical days are mostly in front of my computer, one way or another. I have a mother, so I have two small children, so my mornings are very busy helping them get ready for school, and sometimes I drop them off at school, but after that, I drive to work. The activities that are related to my teaching usually involve a lot of time spent preparing for class, preparing lectures when I do have lectures. It's a lot of grading in my case. Normally you have teaching assistants, but when it comes to the capstone projects, I end up doing a lot of my evaluation of the students. It's important that I get involved in order to provide feedback and input and help them progress in the design projects. And a lot of, like I said, one-on-one meetings with student teams. So that's a lot of my time is taken up like that. On the research side, that involves meetings with collaborators, with graduate students, with undergraduate students that are involved in research projects, working on papers, whether writing my own papers or editing or helping out with papers that we're writing as a group. And then really a lot of things like answering emails. A lot of the modern workplaces efforts are spent just answering a lot of emails from students, colleagues. It's just how the workplace runs, really. These different career tracks are very in demand now. And so it's easy for students to just get a job and do well in industry. At University of Waterloo, they get to do what's called co-op. So they get almost 2 years of work experience through up to 6 co-op terms, each of 4 months in length. So they get to work in industry. And so most engineers, they like work and they get these great careers and they go to industry and really never look back. For me, I was one of the rare ones. For me, I loved being on campus, being on school terms much more than being on co-op. So I kind of knew that I liked school better than work. And that kind of prompted me to stay on for the master's and then for a PhD. And once you get into a PhD track, into a sort of doctoral education, then you are far more likely to then stay in academia. There's many students who will eventually also get industry jobs, usually in sort of research labs in industry. But for me, I just really liked staying in the school environment. I get to stay on campus. I get to interact with students. I get to be in a learning environment. I get to teach. I get to learn from students. And so, it's just some people just like to be in school forever. And I think I'm one of them. There's a lot of opportunities for students that are not really written anywhere, and you don't really find out about them unless you talk to people. Not everything is written, not everything is promoted or publicized. For example, I did not know that professors actually really love to work with undergraduate students on research projects. I had no idea. I would think, why would anyone want a first-year student in their lab? But that's not true. Or, I did not know that it's a good idea, for example, to go to various courses in the first week of classes and actually learn more about what you're going to learn in that course, and then make a decision about what is the best course for you. I did not know that that's something that people do, and that's perfectly normal. And so, if I could go back, I would have taken more advantage of such opportunities. I would have talked to more professors, looked up opportunities to work in to get some research experience in my undergraduate program. I think that would have really, really improved my ability to get things like scholarships down the line in my master's and PhD. The overarching, I think, advice here is try to learn from others, try to get mentors try to listen or ask how others do, what others do, how they go about finding opportunities or getting into new things. Many are saying that basically big data and artificial intelligence are going to change the way that we do design. These methods and tools have been shown to, at the very least, assist designers throughout the design process, but sometimes they can even replace designers. And so the big question then for me as a design educator is, how do I change the way I teach design? How do I complement the current teaching of design with these AI methods, with teaching them students about how to use AI in their design? And then in industry, there are serious implications about for organizations on how to structure design teams, how to organize design processes, how to manage design, and AI-assisted design in particular.